In this cutthroat world, a girl born out of wedlock is sold to a secret organization who trains her to become an assassin. However, upon meeting a tragic fate, an evil alchemist decides to use her milk bags for his malicious plans. The story begins with the Perserads, the oldest and most sinister alchemist family who, in their pursuit of understanding laws of the universe and achieving immortality, unleashed terrifying biochemical disasters across land. Yet 300 years later, for reasons unknown, the family fell in decline. It was Isao Perserad, the talented descendant who swore to create the ultimate biochemical weapon that would restore his house to its old glory. So after 400 years of relentless efforts, Isao is finally about to complete the weapon known as Final Calamity. He orders his lab rat to begin the final steps, making sure he follows strict instructions. The subordinate named Cheese lashes out and tells Isao to not call him a filthy sewer rat. After girl-bossing his master, Cheese continues to work on the final steps of the experiment. With Isao guiding Cheese, the two finally reach the end as he orders Cheese to open the tank. When Cheese does so, Isao prepares to goon over his deviousness as he dreams about his scary creature fulfilling Thanos' legacy. Suddenly, a busty babe from naughty America steps out of the tank, shocking Isao. Confused, Isao steps ahead to check his created experiment, while Cheese reminds him that it's against the protocols to make contact. Ignoring Cheese and the bullcrap protocols, Isao gazes at the curvaceous babe up close and wonders if her female form is just a disguise of Final Calamity. He observes her milk bags and wonders if they are energy sacs for her original form. With curiosity getting the better of him, Isao uses a finger to touch her opal. After analyzing for a moment, he becomes angry, realizing the girl is just an ordinary human. He wonders just where he went wrong, perfectly recalling how he installed a spyware in his experiment's eye. As Isao tries to feel a heartbeat in the girl's body, Cheese alerts him to stand back. In seconds, the girl pins Isao down like Nosferatu, while Cheese wipes his tears dramatically and says he's going to carry on the legacy of the Perseids. Isao cusses out Cheese, warning to put him in a maze trap. Confused, Cheese wonders why the cherry boy isn't yet dead. From beneath the busty babe, Isao states he can't possibly die a stupid death. He also reminds Cheese that he added his own life form in Final Calamity, so his experiment can't end him. Cheese then recalls Isao handing him a mysterious vial and had ordered it to be added in the experiment tank, but since it smelled so good, he had decided to mix a little in his own wine. Now realizing it was Isao's life form, Cheese becomes frustrated. Meanwhile, Isao orders Final Calamity to get off of him when suddenly the premium version of Tesla Robot gives Isao a lick. Isao, being a Discord mod, freaks out and asks Cheese to bring him a purification spray. In the meantime, he puts Final Calamity high-resistance crystal wall. After spraying Goth Mommy bathwater on himself, Isao goes through old documents and realizes Final Calamity's design is based on the original test subject, Human 2252. Cheese, recalling 2252, asks Isao if she's the same girl they rescued who was missing limbs and on the verge of death. Since the event took place 1 year ago, Cheese remembers how 2252 had purple hair, but Final Calamity has blonde hair. Isao states this is what's bothering him too and notes how Final Calamity's personality is different too. Exactly a year ago, Isao and Cheese infiltrate the Golden City White Bank. As they subdue the employees, a guard asks them if they know the penalty of robbing the bank. Isao states he's not interested in details while Cheese steals a lollipop from a child. Within seconds, the two destroy the firewall and come across the mullah. With their heist successful, Isao praises himself while Cheese asks him if they should celebrate with some wine and baddies. Isao scowls and tells Cheese he's not spending a dime on women who look like sumo wrestlers without makeup. He states they'll spend all the money on Final Calamity so they can rule the Golden City. Hearing this, Cheese begins to dream how he'd make the heroes wear frocks once they're successful. As they both laugh wickedly, a sudden gunshot alerts them. Cheese asks Isao if it's the Safety Inspection Bureau following them, but Isao states the firearm sounds different than the one used by the Bureau. The branch director of the Safety Bureau, Homirk, shoots a girl with his revolver. As Isao and Cheese witness this secretly, Isao asks Cheese if Homirk doesn't consider them worthy of his time. Cheese shushes Isao so he can hear the old man better. Homirk asks the girl to reveal the assassins of the Hellhound unit in exchange for her life. Seeing the pitiful girl, Homeric laughs, knowing that the hellhound must have removed her vocal cords to prevent her from speaking. The girl tries to take out a knife, but Homeric puts a bullet in her palm. He then finds a teddy and wonders if the names of the assassins are inside the teddy. The girl tries to get the teddy, but Homeric smacks her with his gun. He throws the teddy next to the girl and then blows it up in pieces. After tormenting the girl, Homeric tells her he's going to take his dead body to the authorities, who will pay a pretty penny for her corpse. A voice calls Homeric a greedy son of a gun, alerting him. When he points his gun towards the silhouette, Esau steps out of the shadows and introduces himself as the most evil criminal of Golden City. Cheese coughs, and so Esau introduces him as his evil pet mouse. Cheese, however, quickly states they are both partners in crime. Esau lashes out on Cheese for ruining his moment, while Cheese grumbles in response. Homeric sighs and tells Esau and Cheese he doesn't have time for their child's play and ushers them to run to mommy. Esau responds by telling Cheese Homeric is underestimating them. Cheese smirks and says they should show him their work and throws the bag of dough. Seeing the money, Homeric realizes they're the one who robbed the bank that evening. Cheese and Esau quickly give Homeric a wicked pose, who calls them insecure for flaunting their crimes. He also calls them rookies and says he doesn't usually like slaying low-life trash like them, but he'll make them an exception. Esau, confident, himself beckons Homeric to shoot him so he can see why he's famous. Homeric tries to pull the trigger, but finds it jammed. Suddenly, the gun starts to feel heavy in his hand. As Homeric falls to his knee, he finds a green cylinder sitting in the bag of dough. Esau tells Homeric he has inhaled his powerless gas, which is obviously poisonous. Confused, Homeric asks Esau if he's trying to save the woman. Esau scoffs and says he's a villain, so he wouldn't try to save someone. He shoots his gun at Homeric and states he just despises city heroes. Suddenly, Homeric transforms into a slime and bounces away. Cheese tells Esau that it's time to have fun, but finds the boy tending to the woman. Esau tells Cheese he's observing how fast a woman can die, especially someone whose left arm and leg has been severed while all her ribs are broken. He also observes that her eye is gouged out too. Seeing how she also has poison in her veins while her vocal cords are burned, Esau smirks and says he's impressed by how she's still alive. Cheese also curiously states that he doesn't know why the Bureau would brutally torture her. When he asks Esau if he's thinking about saving her, the boy vehemently denies and says he's a Sigma, not a simp. Not wanting to risk his reputation, Esau turns to leave but finds the woman crawling. Esau shakes away his humanity as the rain starts to pour down. Meanwhile, the broken woman crawls towards the remains of the teddy. As she hugs the teddy and closes her eyes, Esau covers her with an umbrella. Returning home, Cheese and Esau try to operate on the woman. Yet Cheese taunts Esau, reminding him how they're supposed to be villains. Esau states their goal is to create a final calamity that is on par with the gods. Hence, they need a host who has extreme negative emotions, but the bioweapon should also have goodness at its core, so they can control the weapon. Esau also says their experiments failed because they didn't have goodness, but now they've found someone aligning with their ideals. However, with the woman on the verge of death, Esau orders Cheese to step up his game. Cheese gathers the ingredients like Ember Angel's withered arm, Emerald Empress's sorrowful eye, an artificial heart, and fetal blood of despair. Seeing Final Calamity banging on the crystal wall, Cheese asks Esau what should be done. Esau reveals they'll start a cultivation test tomorrow, but Cheese asks what if the girl turns out to be a waste. Esau quickly states they'll get rid of her if that happens, as he doesn't want a failure by his side. Yet late at night, Esau finds himself troubled by the mental images of the girl licking him. In the end, he decides to take a look at the girl one more time. Upon arrival, Esau relaxes seeing the girl hunched peacefully. On a closer look, he finds her trembling. Irked, Esau wonders if his greatest experiment is afraid of sleeping alone at night. He tries to leave her be as he thinks she's just an experiment. However, the thoughts of her licking his face stops him again. Esau unlocks the crystal wall and tells Final Calamity to come out. Arriving at the experiment base, his caged monsters cuss at him, vowing to finish him in his sleep. Esau then tells Final Calamity that if she sleeps between his experiment 8 and 15, she won't be scared anymore. Of course that's a lie, as those two subjects hurl insults at him. Thinking he has done a good job, Esau returns to his chambers. Meanwhile, Savage Dragon and Abyssal Eye wonder why a human girl is among Esau's high-risk experimental subjects. Abyssal Eye suddenly recalls how Esau called the girl Final Calamity, which makes Savage Dragon laugh. Abyssal Eye joins him and says how Esau's Final Calamity projects have failed 1,000 times, but this time he outdid himself. Meanwhile, Final Calamity tries to break the cage, but the experiments tell her this is Esau's most powerful cage, and if she manages to break it, they'll become her pets. Accepting the challenge, Final Calamity calls upon Ember Angel's withered arm and burns the cage wall down. Both Savage Dragon and Abyssal Eye beg Final Calamity to help them out, promising to be her slaves. Meanwhile, Esau and Cheese sleep peacefully until an alarm shocks them. While running towards the base, Esau tells Cheese the alarm never goes off until 3 white crystal wall barriers are broken. While using the lift, Cheese informs Esau the escaped subjects are Savage Dragon and Abyssal Eye. Esau snatches the tablet and watches how Final Calamity manifested the transplanted left arm. Upon arriving, Esau and Cheese find the experiments wreaking havoc. Savage Dragon confronts Esau, telling him he'll pay the price for locking him up like a lab rat. Cheese quickly fires a yellow spray on Savage Dragon. Esau then informs him that he used a grenade filled with dragon spider eggs. Knowing the spider eggs are parasites which annihilates the host, Savage Dragon becomes scared. Abyssal Eye tries to use this moment to destroy Esau, but Esau cleverly blinds him. He then asks the 2 experiments if they'll quietly go to their cages or not. Both Savage Dragon and Abyssal Eye tell Esau they have Final Calamity on their side, who can melt his strongest glass. Hearing that, Esau becomes fearful of Final Calamity losing control. Savage Dragon shrieks in delight seeing Esau scared as he cusses him for locking divine creatures like them in cages. As Final Calamity approaches them, Cheese asks Esau if he has a way to stop her. Esau admits there's no method that can suppress Final Calamity. Suddenly, the girl pounces on Esau, while Savage Dragon tells Esau to lick his feet if he wants to be saved. All of a sudden, they find Final Calamity licking Esau, who tries to pry her off. Esau sighs and says he understands she doesn't want to sleep in the cage. Meanwhile, Savage Dragon trembles in fear as Esau asks him how he should punish him and Abyssal Eye. Back in the lift, Esau and Cheese are both sleepy while Final Calamity pokes the buttons. Back in his cage, Savage Dragon curses Esau for making him wear a Dino costume while Abyssal Eye is gifted some onions. In the lawn, Esau asks Cheese where they should place Final Calamity. Cheese tells him to leave Final Calamity in his room, which ticks off Esau. At the Golden Poppy Hotel, Detective 682 is ordered to restore the camera. As the image is restored, the agents are shocked to find the hallways filled with skeletons. They wonder who could remove the skin from the dead bodies when a 682 begins coughing and reveals he has been poisoned. A menacing voice calls a 682 her food, who starts to yell, "Monster." The baddie smirks maliciously as the outsiders hears 682 yelling. Turns out, the baddie is Esau's experiment subject 0. She's so scary that Esau makes a note to always wear a special security suit while dealing with her. Meanwhile, Cheese insists Final Calamity sleep with Esau, which he denies. Cheese reasons that since Final Calamity only feels closer to him, it only makes sense if they slept together. Esau realizes Cheese is right since he had added his soul essence during the creation of Final Calamity. Hearing this, Cheese casually reveals he actually drank all of his soul essence. Enraged, Esau asks him to repeat himself while Cheese states that it's his fault as he was barking orders when he was drunk. Meanwhile, Final Calamity jumps in the aquarium tank. Pissed, Esau orders her to come out. In response, Final Calamity hits Esau with a "help me step bro, I'm stuck" pose. As Esau gets Final Calamity out, he ends up getting squished by her bumpa. Cheese laughs while Esau angrily tells Final Calamity to never go near the tank again. Cheese tells Esau he's going to bed, who curses at him. Cheese ignores him and warns Esau to be loving towards Final Calamity, or he'll be the one living on disability checks. Esau reminds Cheese Final Calamity is just an experiment, but then finds her shooting googly eyes at him. Sighing, Esau decides to give her a bath. After scanning her 3 times, Esau detects no signs of pathogens on Final Calamity, but still he feels uneasy seeing her in his bathtub. He sighs and tells Final Calamity to take a bath once he leaves. However, when he sees her looking clueless, Esau tries to dumb it down for her. Final Calamity takes this as a sign and starts to strip off her clothes, freaking Esau, who reminds himself he's a wicked alchemist who doesn't view genders the same way as thirsty losers, but upon looking at Final Calamity's weapon of mass destructions, Esau loses his consciousness. In the end, Esau wears sunglasses and gives Final Calamity a bath. While doing so, he commends himself for making a great outer body of his experiment. Once he's done bathing Final Calamity, he tells her to dry herself. He also firmly tells her he's not his maid, but then ends up slipping and falling in the bathtub. Scowling in pain, Esau states he should have taken Final Calamity to the sterilization room where he'd just blast her with a pressure water gun. A very naked Final Calamity looks at Esau, reminding him how he's in a bathtub with a baddie. Cheese walks in announcing he found a riot collar which they can use against Final Calamity. However, he quickly takes his leave seeing Esau with Final Calamity. After reopening the door, he quickly reminds Esau he should at least wear protection if he's going to do the dirty dance with Final Calamity. A soap is thrown at Cheese, but he quickly shuts the door. He later thinks how Esau might be a smarty pants, but he's still a cherry boy. Cheese looks at a portrait of the lady and tells her to rest in peace. After bathing, Esau angrily dries Final Calamity's hair and pulls out a blow dryer. However, seeing the shape of the dryer, Final Calamity gets a flashback of a faceless man shooting her. Terrified, Final Calamity goes into hiding, surprising Esau, who wonders what she's up to now. He annoyedly tells Final Calamity to stop messing around, but when he sees her trembling, Esau becomes concerned. He quickly catches on, realizing it must have been the hairdryer which reminded her of Homirk. Upon knowing Final Calamity can still remember bits of her old life's memories, Esau calls her troublesome. He then raises the hairdryer, making Final Calamity tremble further in fear. Switching on the dryer, Esau shows Final Calamity how the dryer is harmless. Final Calamity smiles as she starts playing with the hairdryer herself. Esau sighs, realizing he should have never let Final Calamity have the hairdryer. Snatching away the dryer, Esau yells at Final Calamity, reminding her he didn't create her to act like a child. After locking away the hairdryer, Esau tells Final Calamity he'd let her play later, but now she needs to sleep. Realizing he doesn't have a place for Final Calamity to sleep, Esau becomes upset all over again. He thinks to himself that there's no way Final Calamity is sleeping on his bed. However, when he looks up, he finds the girl fast asleep in his bed. He quickly grabs Final Calamity by the arm and tries to drag her out, saying she can't sleep here. Esau sighs and angrily tells her his bed is off limits so she can sleep on the floor, but she must not make any disturbance. Switching off the light, Esau prepares to sleep. Yet, with Final Calamity still in his room, Esau feels uneasy. He takes a peek and finds the girl sleeping soundly. Esau shakes away his uneasiness and tries to sleep when he hears Final Calamity moving. Without getting up, he shouts at her to stay put. When the sounds still continue, Esau becomes angry. He irritatedly gets up to scold Final Calamity when he finds her trembling. Inside Cheese's room, Esau finds Cheese sleeping soundly. He picks up his jizz mag and scowls while trying to wake him up. Growing frustrated, Esau thinks about how Cheese is sleeping soundly while he suffers. An evil plan hits Esau as he grabs an abac stench bug and brings it closer to Cheese's nose, which instantly wakes him up. After puking his guts out, Cheese demands Esau why he's torturing him. Esau remains calm and asks Cheese if he has an extra blankie. Losing his anger, Cheese smiles and asks if it's for Final Calamity. He taunts Esau about how his little heart is going doki doki for Final Calamity. Esau ignores Cheese and states he has to run some tests on her, which is why he needs her in good condition. Cheese, all riled up, tells Esau he has 6 sets of blankets, which he can easily give to Final Calamity. However, Esau calmly says his bedding is meticulously planned. Turns out, Esau even has a bedding with Final Calamity printed on it so he can remain motivated to make her. Cheese calls Esau insane, but tells him to just give her the blanket which has her face on it. Despite being stunned by Cheese's logic, Esau says Final Calamity still has to undergo some tests to qualify as Final Calamity. Uninterested, Cheese tells Esau he has only 1 blanket, so he's not getting that. Esau asks Cheese why he even needs a blanket when he's a rat. In the end, Esau arrives at his locker and takes out the blanket. He returns to his room and tells Final Calamity that the blanket is a gift from him, so she must keep it in top-notch condition. Once Final Calamity is tucked in, Esau returns to his bed and thinks he should put a riot collar on her, but sleep takes over him. Somewhere around midnight, Final Calamity wakes up and stares at Esau sternly. Next morning, a crow wakes Esau by calling him the greatest alchemist of the century. Esau cusses himself for not turning off his alarm, as he hasn't gotten 8 hours of sleep. He suddenly finds warm breath on his ear and finds Final Calamity nuzzled up to him, freaking him and his morning wood. After calming down, Isao thinks how Final Calamity doesn't look dangerous at all. Suddenly, Cheese bursts in and asks Isao where's Final Calamity. Isao stutters, obviously hiding Final Calamity with his blanket. Cheese freaks out, reminding Isao that Final Calamity can wreak havoc if she enters the experiment zones. Wanting Cheese gone, Isao tells him to head to the monitor room. As Cheese turns to leave, he notices something squirming inside the blanket. Isao tries to gaslight Cheese when suddenly, Final Calamity pops out. Sighing, Isao admits that the girl snuck inside his sheets last night. Cheese then tells Isao that he doesn't need to be shy with his bro, as he knows he's a teenage boy. Cheese continues to tease Isao until he pulls a fart spray on him. Cheese falls down and curses at Isao for spraying him with a weapon designed for the city heroes. Later at the experimental testing zone, Cheese measures Final Calamity's height. With Final Calamity being a tall baddie, Cheese tells Isao he'd need to be on tippy toes to kiss her. Enraged, Isao states he's still in the process of growing. Next, Isao and Cheese measure her weight. Realizing she's just 64 kilograms, Isao and Cheese wonder how it's possible when she should have been at least 800 kilograms. Cheese then moves on to measuring Final Calamity's melons and commends her for being double Ds, while Isao cusses him for doing pointless measurements. Isao then checks Final Calamity's lung capacity and asks her to take deep breaths. But since hot girls are always dumb, Final Calamity ends up holding her breath and then releases it in Isao's mouth. Cheese waltzes in and finds Isao being crushed by Final Calamity. Once she lets him go, Isao quickly washes his mouth while Cheese hollers in laughter. He mocks Isao, asking her if Final Calamity's kiss was sweet. Isao, at his limits, throws water at Cheese. After drying themselves, Isao wears his hazmat mask and tells Cheese to carry out the remaining tests. Cheese then conducts tests like flexibility, lower body power, grip strength, and informs Isao that the results show Final Calamity is no better than a human girl. Analyzing data, Isao tells Cheese they need to see Final Calamity in combat mode. When Cheese asks how, Isao states they will lock Final Calamity in a room with the most bloodthirsty experiment. Cheese asks Isao if he will seriously lock Final Calamity with Zero, and since he's strictly against the idea, he suggests they put Final Calamity with the weakest subject first like a bunny. Isao interjects and says the weakest subject they have is a mouse. Within seconds, Cheese snatches the mouse and tells Isao rodents shouldn't be experimented on. Isao just smirks and asks Cheese if a bunny will really activate Final Calamity's fighting instincts. Cheese snatches the rabbit and throws it on Final Calamity, who instantly pounces on it. Isao smirks as he wonders what Final Calamity would do to his enemies. Yet upon a closer look, they find Final Calamity hugging the bunny, which frustrates Isao. Pissed off, he takes out an injection and uses it on the bunny. Cheese asks what's the injection for, and Isao reveals that it's the newly upgraded Frenzy Evolution, which will mutate the rabbit. Within seconds, the bunny transforms into a furry's nightmare. Meanwhile, Isao smirks in anticipation and introduces his newest creation, Savage Rabbit Beast No. 1. As he cheers on, Cheese mutters how Isao has not one merciful bone in his body. When Savage Rabbit enters a fighting position, Cheese asks Isao if he'd like to place nets. Isao agrees as Cheese bets that Final Calamity will just dodge the attack, while Isao claims she'll take the punch. To their dismay, Final Calamity jumps inside the rabbit's fur to cuddle further. The rabbit is as puzzled as Isao and Cheese, who realize Final Calamity has zero desire to fight. Out of options, they enter a high-risk subject zone where Cheese tells Isao that Final Calamity can build strength over time, but if Zero Game ends her, what will they do then? Isao calmly says that if Final Calamity dies, that means she's a failure. Getting further closer to Zero, Cheese insists again by reminding Isao how they've used their best transplants on Final Calamity. However, Isao says he wants Zero to be ruthless so Final Calamity can become the ultimate bioweapon. He also states that he's had enough with failures and it's time to get serious. Hearing this, Final Calamity pats Isao, who firmly states subjects don't get to take pity on their creators. He also warns Final Calamity to unleash all her might against Zero if she wants to live. Meanwhile, Cheese jokes how Final Calamity would have been the perfect plushie to sleep with. Inside her cage, Zero aka Lucille plays with Isao dolls. Just then, Isao enters and tells Lucille he has come to see her. Isao then orders Cheese to bring Final Calamity when the girl suddenly hugs him from behind. Seeing this, Lucille gets riled up and yells at Final Calamity to remove her filthy hands. Terrified, Final Calamity hides behind Isao, who tells her that Lucille is the strongest experiment subject he created. He then turns towards Lucille and tells her that if she wants to be the GOAT, then she must defeat Final Calamity. Lucille bites her lips hard and tells Isao that if she wins, he must spend a day with her. Isao agrees, but Lucille tests her luck and asks if she can hold it when he pees. Isao quickly tells her not happening while Lucille vouches to break Final Calamity. Within seconds, Final Calamity's body becomes a disastrous shade of purple. Lucille smirks and announces how she poisoned Isao's precious weapon. She further tells Final Calamity that only she'll be Isao's strongest bioweapon. Meanwhile, Cheese alerts Isao how the Dark Plague virus is spreading like wildfire in Final Calamity's body, destroying all her organs and flesh. This confuses Isao as the Despair Cocoon's blood included in Final Calamity's body should eradicate Lucille's Dark Plague virus. Meanwhile, Final Calamity's body begins to break due to the poison, while Lucille mocks her for being so breakable. Cheese angrily tells Isao to stop the experiment, but Isao ignores him and states Final Calamity still has a long way to go. In the meantime, Lucille taunts Final Calamity by stepping on her. She also asks Isao if this is really his Final Calamity when she's so weak and pathetic. Lucille continues to mock Final Calamity by asking her to show her what she's got. Meanwhile, Cheese asks Isao if he's really not going to intervene when Final Calamity's cells have deteriorated to 70%. Isao tells Cheese that they must wait a while longer. Seeing Isao unfazed, Lucille asks him if he doesn't care about Final Calamity. Taking this as a signal, she tries to further torment Final Calamity. As the girl loses consciousness, Lucille gives her a lick and announces her intention to devour Final Calamity, while Cheese frantically informs Isao how 90% of Final Calamity's cells have been corroded. He then begs Isao to activate the suppression collar on Lucille before things get out of hand. Stubborn as ever, Isao once again tells Cheese to wait. Cheese yells at Isao, insisting that Final Calamity isn't ready, and if they don't act fast, Lucille will devour her. Isao, now upset, tells Cheese that he only cares about Final Calamity because she's a baddie. He also reminds Cheese their ultimate mission is to make the world bow to them. All of a sudden, Isao hears the word Master from Final Calamity's mouth, shocking him. Cheese, equally shocked, asks Isao if Final Calamity just spoke. Curious, Cheese asks Isao if he taught her how to speak. Isao admits he may have given her a short lesson. Turns out, that night when Final Calamity tried to sleep with Isao, who tells her that if she learns to call him master, then he'd let her sleep on his bed for 30 minutes. Turns out, Isao had used a solution to heal her burned vocal cords and all her previous injuries. But if she's still unable to speak, that means Final Calamity has forgotten how to speak. Shrugging away his questions, Isao tries to teach Final Calamity how to speak. However, when he gets no response, Isao wonders how his experiment can be so utterly dumb. Isao sighs and tells Final Calamity to just go to bed. While Isao dozes off, Final Calamity practices saying master the entire time, and now she calls her master for help. Lucille mocks her, telling Final Calamity that Isao doesn't need a failure like her. Just when she's about to annihilate Final Calamity, Lucille's collar gets activated and she looks at Isao with disappointed eyes. Cheese taunts Isao for turning sweet the moment Final Calamity called him master. Annoyed, Isao just tells Cheese he's going to retrieve the useless girl. Cheese asks if he needs any help, but Isao assures him he'll handle it. Moments later, Final Calamity sees Isao and tries to call him master, but Isao rejects it and tells her she doesn't deserve to call him master. He picks Final Calamity in his arms while she calls him master. Isao angrily tells Final Calamity to shut up and prepare for confinement while thinking about how heavy she is. Meanwhile, Lucille angrily asks Isao why Final Calamity is so special and why he stopped the experiment, which he never did before. Isao calmly tells Lucille he's overthinking it and he only stopped the fight because Final Calamity has many critical transplants which he doesn't want ruined. Satisfied with the explanation, Lucille smiles. Meanwhile, Cheese cuts the bullcrap and tells Isao he wasted everyone's time when he obviously cares about Final Calamity. All of a sudden, Cheese notices an anomaly and warns Isao to get out of Zero's confinement chamber. Isao scowls and tells Cheese he's going to burst his eardrum. Meanwhile, Cheese urgently states the suppression collar on Lucille has failed and her body temperature is rising rapidly. Shocked, Isao turns to look and finds Lucille smirking at him. She coos and says the collar isn't broken, and he should know better that viruses like her learn to evolve. Lucille reveals that when she was locked for 1,000 days, she repeatedly kept triggering the suppression collar. Finally, after a week, the dark plague cells in her body evolved to suppress the collar. In a calm tone, Esau tells Lucille he'll fulfill his promise, but Lucille says that one day isn't enough for her anymore. Smirking, she removes Esau's mask. Lucille's dark plague virus poisons Esau while she celebrates about how she can now know all of his cell activity. Meanwhile, Cheese worriedly tells Esau his body has been impacted by the virus. Lucille assures Cheese the virus she has implanted is in her control, and she wouldn't dare harm Esau. Lucille suddenly pauses and realizes Final Calamity had kissed Esau, which fills her with insane rage. She faces Final Calamity and prepares to annihilate her all over again, while Cheese realizes how bad things have gotten. Lucille grips Final Calamity's body with her darkness while chanting about how she is going to invade all of her nerve cells and make her beg for death. True to her words, Final Calamity moans in pain. Esau, who is also suffering from Lucille's virus, thinks about how to stop her despite knowing that Lucille is almost uncontrollable. He thinks about using his latest experiment, but discards the idea since it's still developing. Seeing Lucille go crazy like your girlfriend, Esau asks Cheese if there's any way they can stop her. Cheese then remarks that only he can stop her since Lucille is obsessed with him. Surprised for a moment, Esau rigorops and calls Lucille. He holds a gun to his head and tells her to stop. Shocked, Lucille asks Esau if he's threatening her for Final Calamity. Esau reminds Lucille that it's her body he's interested in, pun not intended. He also tells Lucille that without Final Calamity, he can't conquer the world or restore his family's old glory. Watching the drama unfold, Cheese notes that Esau's acting skills have improved. Back in Zero's cell, she sighs after hearing Esau, who wonders if this is a sign of her surrender. Lucille suddenly kicks Final Calamity and announces that she's about to show her what natural selection means, and then she'll help her Esau. Meanwhile, Esau realizes how wrong he was as Lucille tells Final Calamity her status is about to become deceased. Sighing, Esau states he must use his trump card now. Cheese asks him why he didn't use whatever trump card he had earlier. Esau then yells at Lucille that if she wants him to cuddle her every night, she must stop. Lucille aborts her plan and excitedly asks Esau if he's serious. Once Esau confirms, Lucille hugs the twink while he asks if she's going to adhere to the deal. Lucille says she can spare Final Calamity, but she has two special conditions. Esau asks her to reveal her conditions, and Lucille announces that Final Calamity must live in confinement while she lives outside with him. Esau thinks to himself how Lucille is vengeful, but he must agree for now to save Final Calamity. So he tells Lucille that he's on board with her condition. She then smirks and reveals her second condition. Lucille urges Final Calamity to wake up as she pushes Esau closer to her chesticles. Esau tells her there's no need for this, but Lucille says that since Final Calamity stole his first kiss, this is a payback. However, Esau insists that Final Calamity doesn't understand such things, but Lucille quickly puts her mouth on his. Final Calamity opens her eyes suddenly while Lucille pushes her tongue inside Esau. Cheese witnesses the whole ordeal and is confused if he should be happy or sad for Esau. Lucille finally lets go of Esau, who breathes hard while the crazy girl comments on how good his toothpaste tastes. Esau quickly runs to disinfect his mouth while Lucille calmly says it won't undo what they just did. Meanwhile, Final Calamity thinks about how her chest hurts. The Despair Cocoon's blood finally gets activated and Final Calamity breaks free from Lucille's virus. Lucille, in disbelief, doesn't have time to react as Final Calamity grabs her by the throat while also activating the Ember Angel's withered arm. Both Esau and Cheese look in disbelief as Final Calamity tells Lucille she hates her before plowing her on the ground. An injured man battles the Molten Feather Phoenix and wonders why the beast hasn't yet lost consciousness when he already poisoned it. Meanwhile, as the Phoenix grows aggressive, the man accepts his fate and says that as long as KO is safe, that is enough for him. All of a sudden, KO arrives and tells the man he won't give her sloppy toppy for being a self-sacrificing idiot. KO then deals with the Phoenix while the man hides behind her. Once that's done, KO grabs the man's face and tells him that he's not allowed to leave her side. Suddenly, the man goes for a kiss but receives a foot on his face, which is even better. KO angrily tells the man the kissing scene is a no-go for her. The director yells, "Cut," and then tells the Phoenix named Zio to have a feast while she sorts things out. The director begs Ko to calm down, who just happens to be the world's best actress and also the chairman of White Queen Film. She tells Ko that the male actor isn't exactly bright. However, Ko states the actor not only has a negative aura, but he's also bad at acting and should be replaced. The director agrees since Ko's father created this great city, but tells her that they haven't been able to find a male lead that can play her father, Lord Gordon. Ko sighs and says she'll add more money if that's what they need. A masked soldier whispers something in Ko's ears, and she then learns her bank was robbed. The soldier reveals the robbers were an odd pair, a human and a rodent. She then shows Ko the device used to subdue the security. The soldier continues, revealing how Homirk was turned into a disgusting slime by these two robbers, which left the lighthouse area in chaos. However, Ko tells the soldier to not interfere in this matter, who urges her to do something since the lighthouse area is her hero execution zone. Instead of revealing what a hero execution zone is, Ko serves looks and finally says the robbers might have an answer to a question she has long wanted to know. With that, she orders her soldier to find the robbers. The director asks Ko what about the shooting, but the girl dismisses it and says she has urgent matters to handle. She comes up to the terrified actor and asks if he wants to kiss her, but the guy says he won't dare anymore. Ko summons an extreme cold ice and stuffs it in the actor's face. She tells him to melt it and his life would be spared. In the past, the young purple-haired girl gets scolded by a woman named Jimin, who throws her teddy in the water and proceeds to stomp on it. Jimin tells the girl she shouldn't hold on to things that belong to the dead. When the girl tries to get the teddy, her aunt Jimin gives her a slap. Suddenly, the girl's father, Malier, arrives and tells Jimin she shouldn't punish the girl so harshly. Jimin callously reminds Malier that it was her and her father who made him a successful playwright. Suddenly, a masked man enters and asks Jimin if it's her family that voluntarily applied to provide child soldiers. Jimin points at the girl while Malier asks why the man entered unannounced. The man states that the Mingquan needs no permission. Terrified, Malier asks the man if he's from the Mingquan organization. Jimin smirks and tells Malier that she has found a good home for his love child. The man bends over to analyze the little girl, while Jimin tells him the girl is strong and will be good for the Mingquan organization. The man picks up the girl while she yells for Malier to save her. In the present, Final Calamity wakes up from her nightmare. In his lab room, Cheese talks to Isao about how Final Calamity hasn't woken up for 3 days since her victory against Lucille. Years ago, at the base of the Underworld Hounds, the Houndmaster is greeted by the first hound, Doberman. The Houndmaster asks Doberman about his assassination operation. Doberman states that Castor, Rottweiler, and more of his allies were slain by the city heroes during the infiltration of the Golden Zone of Golden City. The Houndmaster remarks that not even his strongest hounds could break into the Golden Zone and eliminate those who betrayed the Latoma dynasty. Doberman then states that Yorkshire survived but seems to be missing. Hearing this, the Houndmaster tells Doberman to quickly find her. In the present, Final Calamity sits silently with the teddy patched up by Isao. Suddenly, Isao yells he has an idea and tells Final Calamity that her codename would be Cowl. Isao asks Cheese if he's curious to know why he named Final Calamity Cowl. Turns out his mother's favorite flower was called Cowl. The flower was special for blooming in storms. Remembering that, Isao tells Cheese he's not telling him why Final Calamity is called Cowl now. Isao then happily announces that Cowl is their top danger subject from now. He also says that Cowl's greatest advantage is her docile personality, but her flaw is her unstable abilities and the lack of desire to attack. This is why they need to find out what triggers Cowl to attack. Cheese offers his insight by saying Cowl wants to sleep with him, which flusters Isao. After regrouping, Isao states that Cowl probably thought Lucille was attacking him, which made her attack Lucille. Isao smirks wickedly as he notes how the move Cowl used to take down Lucille was as overpowering as a solar flare. Cheese speculates that had the collar's alchemy not worked in time, Lucille would have been toast. All of a sudden, Cowl calls Isao and says she is hungry. Cheese then asks Isao if he ever fed Cowl after he created her. Isao admits he never thought she'd need food. He then confidently states he'll get Cowl food right now. Seconds later, Cheese calls Isao crazy as he brings Cowl to Savage Dragon's confinement cell. Upon waking up, Savage Dragon politely asks Isao if he has come to release him from the Dino suit. Isao darkly says he has come to release him from life and reveals he's about to become Cowl's food. As Savage Dragon loses his poop, Cheese tells Esau that they only have one dragon, and it would be a waste to feed him to Cowl. However, Esau says that since dragons are formidable, Cowl should eat him. He then orders Cowl to devour Savage Dragon. As Cowl climbs on Savage Dragon, he begs for his life. But Esau states it's too late as Cowl takes a chomp of him. Seconds later, she comes out crying. Esau sighs and just gives Cowl some instant ramen. Instead of waiting for chopsticks, Cowl dives in while Esau yells at him to eat with manners. Meanwhile, Cowl tells Esau that the food is delish. Seeing Cowl cry tears of joy, Esau tells her she is embarrassing herself, while Cheese says that it looks like Cowl had not had enough food in her old life. Esau states that she is just like Cheese when he was once a sewer rat who stole food. Riled up, Cheese calls Esau a brat who drank his mom's milk till 3. Esau yells back that he stopped drinking milk when he was 6 months old. While Esau and Cheese fight, Coil enjoys her noodles in peace. After finishing her food, she cheerfully tells Esau that it was good. Esau scolds Cowl for eating like a savage when suddenly a loud rumble is heard from her tummy. After devouring several noodles, Coil asks for more and Esau just caters to her whims. A few moments later, Esau holds his gun while begging Cowl to leave his stash of chocolates alone. Not wanting to share, Esau stuffs all his chocolates at one go, but Cowl takes this as a challenge and kisses Esau right at that moment. Meanwhile, Cheese makes up his mind to protect his snacks which he has saved over the years. Elsewhere, Cowl sniffs around for more snacks and even unleashes the Ember Angel's withered hand. Seconds later, she appears before Cheese, who is ready to give his life for his cheese stash. At once, Cowl melts his gun and then proceeds to finish all of his snacks. Seeing this, Cheese bemoans that instead of being Final Calamity, Cowl is Final Piggy. Meanwhile, Abysmal Eye asks Savage Dragon if he's okay. The dragon cockily says that Esau and Cowl has no idea how tough his body is. In reality, Savage Dragon now only has one horn after Cowl tried to bite him. Having had enough, Esau locks Cowl up for raiding his snacks. Esau sighs upon realizing Cowl has no resistance against sweets and she would go through any limits to get chocolates. Esau also reveals how there's nothing left in the kitchen anymore because of Cowl. With Cheese silent, Esau asks him why he isn't talking. Cheese then laments about how his limited edition cheese has all been gone because of Cowl. He angrily tells Esau that Cowl must be punished at all costs. He also announces his murderous plans for Cowl, while Esau continues to mimic him by saying Cowl is a cute girl. Cheese yells at Esau that he learned his lesson, but asks him to at least smack Cowl. Esau ponders upon it and admits Cowl needs to be punished or she'll never learn. Moments later, Esau asks Cowl if she is ready for her punishment while cradling her in his lap. Believing that Cowl has the mind of a kid, Esau believes spanking her would solve his problem. After switching daddy mode on, Esau proudly tells Cheese that Cowl will never misbehave now. Cheese, however, reminds Esau that they have no food left except rat poison. With his tummy grumbling, Esau says he is famished and they should restock their pantry. Cheese asks Esau if they should leave Cowl at the base, but Esau says Cowl would destroy the whole place in their absence. Moments later, Esau and Cheese get dressed to carry out their food procurement mission. While they look like super cool villains, Cowl looks like a blow-up doll. On their way out, Coil holds Esau's hand, which makes him think how Cowl is both disastrous and timid. Seconds later, Esau welcomes Cowl to their criminal paradise, the Golden City. Esau stands in the Beacon District, claiming that it's his favorite spot as it overlooks the Golden City. Cheese asks Esau if they should head to the mart, but he says they need to dress Cowl first. He smirks and says that it's time to go to Camilla Avenue, but Cheese reminds him that they'll have to burn extra cash there since it's a luxurious place. Esau then reveals that this is his way of planning his next heist. He then tells Cowl to hold his hand as they jump down. After landing smoothly, Cheese says that once they arrive at the location, he's grabbing some food. Arriving at the Golden Boulevard, Coil looks at the golden statue, while Esau frustratedly waits for Cheese. Suddenly, a kid exclaims how a girl is climbing the Camilla statue. Hearing this, Esau scoffs since only an idiot will climb the statue in a constant surveillance zone. He suddenly realizes and looks around and finds Cowl climbing the statue like a cockroach. Esau hollers at her to get down, but Cowl just proudly waves at him. Meanwhile, Cheese enjoys his hot dog and takes his sweet time to return to Esau. However, he suddenly notices security running in the same direction he's going. Confused, he finds a crowd of people near the Camilla statue. Realizing what's up, Cheese cries out in frustration. Meanwhile, a guard yells at Cowl to come down since it's not allowed to climb the city's landmark. Cheese thinks how climbing the statue can lead to a year in prison and decides to make his move. Turns out his move is to blend in the crowd and sneak away. Isao sighs and uses his gadgets to blind the crowd, while swearing to never bring Cowl out again. After dealing with the security, he tells Cheese to get Cowl while also cursing at him for abandoning them. Once they are at a safer distance, Isao huffs and says Cowl is going to get them punished. Suddenly, a man yells at them to keep their hands off his shop's window. Isao smirks and asks Cheese what they should do in this situation. Cheese then licks the glass to annoy the store manager further. Yet seconds later, he uses a bill to wipe the window, surprising the manager. After lining the window with cash, Isao asks the manager if they still want them gone. The man quickly changes tone and welcomes them inside. The manager asks Isao what he's looking for, and he points at Cowl and asks the manager to get something for Cowl. Seeing her smile, the manager realizes Cowl is a top-notch beauty. However, when he sees Isao scolding her, the manager thinks how it's a shame Cowl is enslaved by a twink like him. Isao scowls and tells the manager to bring out the gowns for Cowl. A couple of sales girls drag Cowl inside the dressing room, revealing they're here to assist her. Meanwhile, Isao collapses on the couch while the manager brings him some tea. Isao rejects it and asks Cheese to give him the soda he hid. Cheese throws him the can and tells him to leave him alone while he shops. 20 minutes later and no sign of Cowl, Isao grows frustrated with waiting until the salesgirl pops out and tells Isao Cowl isn't letting them undress her. Isao enters the trial room and tells Cowl to stop making a scene. As the salesgirls enter the trial room and proceed to undress her, Cowl calls for Isao, who assures her that he's right outside. Soon, Cowl appears in a red gown, which makes Isao think how good she looks. The manager tells Isao his girlfriend looks pretty, but Isao states Cowl is just a maid. Isao then tells the manager to bring out something better. Cowl then reappears in another gown, but Isao rejects the dress again. Cladded in a golden dress, Cowl shows her curves, which even boggles young Isao's mind. Suddenly, a limo pulls up and two servants place a black carpet all the way to the clothing store. The manager then says that he completely forgot that Lady Renai of the Black Palace is scheduled for a visit. Before Isao can say anything, the manager shoves them in a room and begs them to not come out until Renai has left or everyone will be in trouble. Renai and her entourage make an appearance when Renai tells her maid, Akarengu her feet are cold. Akarengu quickly summons La Fire so that Renai is no longer cold. Do you think Lucille is a baddie or is Cowl the #1 waifu? Comment watermelons to find out more in part 2. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to the channel for similar content. And as always, thanks for watching.